It began with a secret auction. 3 people, no product, $44 million. The race to build a thinking machine turned partners into enemies. What they made can reason, create, and lie without ever knowing it. This is how they woke it up.
On the 30th of November, 2022, a small San Francisco company quietly put a website online and called it a research preview. They expected almost no one to notice. Within 5 days, 1 million people had signed up. Within 2 months, 100 million, among the fastest a tool had ever reached the entire world. It was called ChatGPT, and for the first time in history, ordinary people sat down and had a real conversation with a machine. But the sentence that woke that machine had been written 5 years earlier, buried in a research paper with an arrogant little title: "Attention is all you need." This is the story of how a handful of rivals, idealists, and runaways in Toronto, in Silicon Valley, inside Google itself, built the engine that learned to speak, and of an ancient warning written 300 years ago that came true the very moment it did. Not long before, in a Toronto lab, 2 ordinary gaming graphics cards had taught a machine to see, and the giants of technology had been watching. What happened next was not science. It was a gold rush. The 3 researchers behind that breakthrough, Geoffrey Hinton and his students Alex Krzyzewski and Ilya Sutskever, had no product and barely a company, just a paper and an idea. And in December of 2012, in a hotel room at a casino in Lake Tahoe, that idea was auctioned to the highest bidder. Google, Microsoft, Baidu, and a young London lab called DeepMind bid against one another by email, the price climbing in million-dollar leaps: 12 million, 20, 30, until it reached $44 million for 3 people and their minds. Hinton stopped the bidding and chose Google. It was a signal flare to the entire industry. The handful of people who understood these strange learning machines were suddenly worth fortunes. And the race to own them and the future they promised had begun in earnest. Google did not stop at 3 researchers. In 2014, it bought DeepMind, a London lab openly chasing artificial general intelligence, a machine as capable as a human mind. To a few people in Silicon Valley, this was alarming. If superhuman AI was truly coming, should it belong to a single corporation? One of the most worried was Elon Musk. In the summer of 2015, over dinner at a hotel called the Rosewood, he and a young investor named Sam Altman hatched a counterweight, a nonprofit lab whose research would be open to all, a check on any one company owning the future. They called it OpenAI. To lead the science, they needed the best, so they raided Google for Ilya Sutskever, the very same student from that Toronto bedroom. Google fought to keep him with a 7-figure offer. He chose the mission instead. And to fund it, Musk pledged to think bigger than anyone, a $1 billion commitment, writing that he would personally cover whatever the others could not. In December 2015, OpenAI was born, idealistic, defiant, and aimed squarely at Google. But the breakthrough that mattered most was being born inside Google itself. The great unsolved problem was language. Machines read text 1 word at a time, passing a fragile thread of memory forward. And by the end of a long paragraph, they had all but forgotten how it began. In 2017, 8 researchers at Google, among them Ashish Vaswani, Noam Shazir, and Jakob Uskereit, had a different idea. What if the machine could look at every word in a sentence at once, and for each one decide how much to pay attention to all the others? They called the architecture the transformer, and the mechanism, attention. It was faster, deeper, and it could finally run in parallel, unleashing the full power of the GPU on language. They gave their paper a title of pure swagger: "Attention is all you need." It would become one of the most cited scientific papers of the century. And here is the twist. Those 8 authors held the blueprint for the modern world. And one by one, all of them walked out of Google, scattering to found their own companies and rivals: Cohere, Character AI, and more. Years later, reunited on a stage, NVIDIA's Jensen Huang told them that everything we enjoy today can be traced back to that moment. Google had invented the future and let it walk straight out the door. OpenAI took the transformer and made a bet that sounded almost lazy. Don't make the machine cleverer,
Make it bigger. Feed it more text, give it more parameters, pour in more computing power. They called their models GPT, and with each version, the results turned uncanny. By 2019, GPT-2 was so fluent that OpenAI announced it was too dangerous to release in full and held the largest version back, a decision that stunned the field. Then came GPT-3 in 2020, 175 billion parameters, having read a vast fraction of the internet, suddenly able to translate, summarize, and answer questions no one had trained it to. But scale like this cost a fortune. To pay for it, OpenAI bent its own idealism, restructuring as a capped profit company and taking $1 billion from Microsoft, whose chief executive, Satya Nadella, bet that this lab could build the future on his Azure supercomputers. And the founder, who had warned against corporate control? Elon Musk, after clashing with the others over how the lab should be run and structured, left OpenAI's board in 2018, walking away from the very thing he had helped create, just before it changed everything.
But raw scale alone produced a kind of monster, brilliant and unusable. A giant trained only to predict the next word on the internet had swallowed humanity's knowledge and humanity's poison in equal measure, with no idea which was which. The fix was not more data, but human judgment. In a technique called reinforcement learning from human feedback, people ranked the machine's answers, helpful or harmful, honest or nonsense, and used those judgments to steer the giant toward being useful and safe. The result was staggering. A model 100 times smaller, but aligned with human preferences, was judged better than the raw behemoth. Manners, it turned out, mattered more than size. And so, on the 30th of November 2022, OpenAI placed all of it behind a single blinking cursor and offered it to the world. They called it ChatGPT and expected a quiet research preview. Instead, the world arrived overnight. Humanity met the thinking machine face to face. Fluent, helpful, and frighteningly confident, even when it was completely and serenely wrong. Inventing facts and citations with the very same calm it used to tell the truth. And so, we arrive back where we began. 300 years ago, the satirist Jonathan Swift imagined a machine he called the engine, a great frame of wooden blocks that shuffled words at random, letting the most ignorant person produce learned books with no real knowledge at all. He meant it as a warning against the mindless, mechanical generation of language. He could not have known that he was describing, with uncanny precision, the large language models of the 21st century. Eloquent systems that arrange words by probability, what some researchers now call stochastic parrots, capable of flawless grammar and confident nonsense in the very same breath. The whole long journey has been the swing of a single pendulum, top-down logic against bottom-up learning. Ramon Lowell's faith that truth could be calculated against Swift's fear that language could be faked. We have built the machine that Leibniz dreamed of and that Swift dreaded, and it is both at once. The pendulum has not stopped. It never does. And the question these machines leave us with is the same one Lowell asked 7 centuries ago on his wheel of paper. Not whether a machine can produce the truth, but whether we will still be able to tell the difference.